And let people know that at 6:01 and 45 seconds, we are here. Good morning. Welcome. It's a nice morning here on Lake Wissota this Tuesday morning, July 22nd, for a radio program that'll get started at 6:06 across the Civic Media Radio Network. We will visit with Cam Stevenson from Courier Newsroom about his daily newsletter covering Washington, D.C., a city he doesn't live in yet, but is about to as he makes the move from Arizona. So we'll talk about his new role with Courier Newsroom. In our second hour, we will talk to Dan Hagan from Newswatch 12 in Rhinelander. We'll also talk about the ways that people unhappy with what the Trump administration is doing are calling attention to those efforts here in Wisconsin. And the fact of the matter is, Wisconsin politics is in a holding pattern this week. Everybody's waiting on Governor Evers to announce whether he'll run for re-election next year or not. We'll ask a political journalist like Dan Shafer, what does one do while we wait for everything to start up once again? So we'll get recombobulated with Dan Shafer and much more coming up on this wonderful Civic Media Radio Network, on this wonderful social media channel with you, this wonderful audience. We'll get going in 3 minutes. See you soon.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. It is 6:06 on this Tuesday morning, July 22nd, 2025. It's another beautiful morning to have you here up north, live from Lake Wissota, from wherever you're spending your mornings, listening across the Civic Media Radio Network or on the Civic Media app, on Facebook, on YouTube, by podcast. Pleasure to have you here to get this Tuesday underway. I got a question for you. Is Sean Duffy on duty after that near midair collision involving a passenger flight and a B-52 bomber, something like that? Look, I'm not expecting Sean Duffy to be in every control tower, but maybe before going after things like DEI and criticizing New York City's, rush hour congestion traffic program, maybe focus on the core aspects of your job and putting up a social media post every couple of days saying, hey, we're looking for air traffic controllers. It's a great job. Maybe you need to do a little bit more than that. We'll talk about that close call coming up in just a little bit. But first, Roger puts it so well in the comment section of Facebook. Simply says, how about your first place, Milwaukee Brewers? How about that, producer Parker Olson down in Madison A2? Your first place, Milwaukee Brewers.
I like the sound of that, Pat. That's a good. I could get used to that.
We haven't said that since, I think, is it April 11th, something like that? So
were we in first place at all this year?
We were for a little bit. Yep.
Okay.
First things started really not good, and then things were really good for a short time. Believe it or not, after winning 11 in a row by beating Seattle last night, that is still not the longest streak in the majors, but just a couple more to go for that. Only one more to go for those George Webb hamburgers.
That's what we all care about. That's the only thing that matters.
I can honestly say, having lived in Milwaukee for 4 years, back in the late 80s, I think I only went to a George Webb restaurant, maybe twice.
I've never.
And if they hadn't been for their, decades long, promise to give out free hamburgers if the Brewers ever win 12 in a row, I don't know that I would have heard of them at all. But they certainly found the right way to get attention when the Brewers get on a winning streak. So
it's a good way to do it.
Yeah, good for them if that's what gets the job done. Coming up on the program today, we are going to be visiting in just a little bit here with Cam Stevenson from Courier Newsroom. And Cam is currently our Arizona editor of the Copper Courier. He's relocating to Washington, D.C., and will become our Capitol Hill correspondent after the congressional recess. The August recess starts at the end of this week. So Cam's going to give us an idea of where the things are in the Capitol this week. Chaos comes to mind. And then Congress will take a break. He'll take a break, pack everything in a moving van, and then join us after Labor Day to become our regular Tuesday morning correspondent out of the nation's capital. So we'll talk about his daily newsletter as well. It's called Below the Beltway. You can get it through Courier Newsroom at couriernewsroom.com. And his latest edition talks about the ongoing efforts to sanewash Donald Trump's friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, and to also show us how residents in some communities are trying to basically shame local law enforcement into not becoming a branch office of Donald Trump's masked secret police force. So we've got that to cover with Cam Stevenson this hour. In our next hour, we will talk about some of the groups that know that they're not in power right now, but they can call attention to what people in power are doing, specifically Trump's big bloated boondoggle of a budget bill and the state budget and things like that. So we've got a couple of different stories from around Wisconsin of how people are calling attention to the things that are going to, frankly, harm them because of recent actions in the nation's capital. Let's see. We'll also talk to Chad Holmes from 98.9 WXCO in Wausau about the stories he's following there. And then there's Dan Shafer from the recombobulation area. Wisconsin politics is in a holding pattern this week. From legislators to political journalists like Dan Shafer, everyone is waiting on Governor Tony Evers to announce whether he'll seek a third term in 2026 or retire and open up a sprawling Democratic primary to potentially succeed him. We don't know. And he's given no indication one way or the other. It literally could go either way at this point. Every so often, the rumor mill fires up, and people say they've just heard that he's going to say he's running, or they just heard from a credible source he's going to say he's not running. We don't know. We don't know. That's where things are right now. We don't know, and we're waiting to find out because it is going to lead to a lot of coverage, either about what does it mean that he's running, or who's going to run on the Democratic side if he's not. We know there are two candidates so far on the Republican side, and I say quite confidently that there will be more Republican Congress or more Republican candidates running for governor. So we have a lot of work ahead of us, but of the candidates announced right now, Washington County Executive Josh Schoeman and also businessman Bill Berrien, it's Bill Berrien who is running ads already, a $400,000 ad buy. And in our Sunday morning newsletter about Wisconsin politics, we ask, what do you think of that? If a candidate, an unknown candidate, is running ads this early, is it a turnoff, or is it understandable because, you don't like ads, but you got to build your name ID somehow? Or do you even like it? Do you like it because you see here's somebody who's ambitious, who's a go-getter, wants to get out of the gates early? Well, where do you come down on this? Getting a lot of answers, a lot of feedback from you, and understandably, a lot of them are going with option A. They think it's a huge turnoff. But it's far from unanimous. There are plenty of people that are choosing option B, saying, I don't like political ads, but I get it. And I can tell you, so many of those answers are tagged out with, regardless, these campaigns last way too long. And people would like to see some kind of restriction on election season, which would be tough to do. People, potential candidates would still claim a First Amendment right to run ads, et cetera, et cetera. But a lot of people sure do admire countries like Canada, the UK, and others where the campaign season is designed to be especially short, like 2 months from the time elections are announced until people vote. In fact, I had a good long chat yesterday with a service guy who was here to work on one of the appliances, and tells me that he listens to a lot of conservative talk radio around the state, and the conversations that I have with folks, they often go like this. Can't we get along? Aren't most people are in the center, either a little bit center left or a little bit center right. And yet he and I both noted that we know of people who have drifted, further to the right or further to the left, but the general public by and large just wants us to get together. And if we had shorter campaign seasons where we could just focus on the issues and not spend a year or more in knockdown, drag out, marathon contests of personal attacks, maybe we'd be better off with that shorter campaign season. So you can see why we're getting some good responses to our question of the week. It's in our Sunday morning newsletter. Sign up for it over at upnorthnewswi.com. All right, well, let's get back to the Brewers here, Cam, because I didn't get to see the game. It was out on the West Coast last night in Seattle, but I do know that Brandon Woodruff was going to be pitching, and pitch he did. He went 6 innings, throwing only 62 pitches, walking nobody, giving up just 2 singles, and your first place Milwaukee Brewers won their 11th straight 6-0 over the Mariners. For Woodruff, it was only his 3rd start of the season after missing all of 2024 because of surgery on his pitching shoulder in late 2023. Apparently, though, and this is where I'm glad I didn't stay awake for this one, I love a good pitcher's duel unless it's like way past my bedtime. Then I want to see a couple of grand slams and then I can go to bed,
Yeah.
But instead, Seattle's George Kirby carried a no-hitter against the Brewers into the 6th inning. But the Brewers then tagged Kirby for 4 runs after sending 8 men to the plate. So the Brewers are now 2 victories away from tying the Twins for the longest win streak this season. Minnesota won 13 straight in the month of May. But we are now 100 games into the season, and the Brewers have won 60. They are 60-40, 100 games into the season. First time in team history.
That's
20 games above 500. And by the way, they are doing it with a very different roster than the one that won the division last year. Willie Adames, gone, San Francisco. Corbin Burns, gone, now with Arizona. Devin Williams, gone, now with the New York Yankees. And on it goes. And yet Pat Murphy's taken this crew, and look what he's got now. Tonight's pitcher, a young man named Jacob Mizorowski.
Yeah. It's funny. You look at this team, and it almost feels like somehow, without any of the name recognition, it feels like the Cardinals or the Yankees or the Dodgers. It feels like a team that you look at the batting lineup and you go, oh God, that guy is going to be really hard to get past. Oh, that guy's going to be hard. Oh, that guy too. Like every single guy in that batting lineup right now is just an absolute thorn to get past. And It makes no sense because you don't know who any of them are.
No, and it's a thing that I always love watching the national media, and it's not just Milwaukee. Anytime a smaller market team is doing very well, and you can almost sense in them, part of it is, oh, now I've got to learn all these names.
Right?
How do you spell Mizorowski? Some of them are excited about it. They don't want to just cover the same, oh, look, Aaron Judge hit another 600-foot home run. They appreciate the fact that every so often a small market team can make a run like this. But I do enjoy watching Cubs fans try to somehow rationalize all of this.
Cubs fans, can we have a moment, please? Figure it out. Focus on yourselves. Win some games. There's no dark magic going. Mark Ananasio said he wants to provide a summer of fun and entertainment. He said nothing about a World Series championship. So we're having fun. This is entertaining. Be entertained.
Yes, I am. And we are. So here's where things go with the Brewers from here. One more night game in Seattle, and then there is a day game ahead. Tonight's game is at 8:05. Pregame coverage begins on several civic media stations around Wisconsin. And then tomorrow afternoon, they'll wrap up things in Seattle. Tomorrow afternoon, 2:05 is when the pregame will begin. Then Thursday, they're off to come back home for two series. The first one begins Friday against the Florida Marlins. And then the Cubs come to town next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That, boys and girls, is going to be interesting.
You thought that the Mizorowski, pitching against the Pirates felt like a playoff atmosphere? Wait until you see what it feels like playing against the Cubs when we're a game within each other.
And again, that's quite likely. And the crowds are going to be raucous, and they're going to be much more evenly balanced than in past seasons, and that is going to feel real good. From the heart of America's up north, live from Lake Wissota, thanks for making this the place to spend part of your mornings. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Welcome back to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, where we wonder if Pat can unmute his mic.
Oh, stop it. Here. I got the button right here. Boy, the things I do not to slurp my coffee too loud in your ear during the commercial break here.
Oh, it's so thoughtful.
That's me, just a thoughtful guy. So the story out of North Dakota with that near midair collision with a B-52 bomber was that a SkyWest plane had to abort its landing in Minot and make an aggressive maneuver because a B-52 was conducting a flyover of the North Dakota State Fair at the time. That's according to remarks that a passenger made according to remarks the captain made to passengers in the cabin after the flight. This happened back on Friday. An aviation tracker program shows the plane was descending toward Minot, but then climbing, turning right, and flying in a loop before landing. SkyWest did not say how close the two planes had come to each other. Minot is near an Air Force base, as well as the North Dakota State Fair. And the flyover was being done with approval from the Federal Aviation Administration and Minot's Air Traffic Control Tower, but the tower did not advise the inbound commercial aircraft. It did not name SkyWest or the B-52 in its statement, and the Air Force did not respond to inquiries. A passenger on board the plane, Monica Green, said she was sitting near the front of the plane when it swerved harshly to the right near the end of the trip. The turn was so sharp she found herself looking out the window, not at the sky, but at the cornfields below, she said. And then upon landing, the pilot came into the cabin and told passengers about the military aircraft. He said, "Sorry about the aggressive maneuver. This caught me by surprise. This is not normal at all." The air traffic control tower at the airport does not have radar, the pilot says in the video, but the nearby Air Force base does. And he said, "I don't know why they didn't give us the heads up." From Jim in Brookfield on the text line, when a B-52 bomber crosses the flight path of an active runway in order to do a state fair flyover, something is seriously wrong. The Transportation Secretary needs to address the issue under no uncertain terms and hold someone accountable. Again, on the text line from Jim in Brookfield. And so, because the Secretary of Transportation happens to be from Wisconsin, Sean Duffy, we do kind of look at that a little bit differently, in part because Sean Duffy has no significant transportation management experience, and in part because a lot of the people who do have either been let go or have quit, resigned, retired, have not been replaced. And with the aviation, air traffic control system, this understaffed and this much under pressure, there is legitimate concern that there could be more incidents like this. And so all we're really asking is that Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy focus on making the necessary repairs, making the necessary hires. And don't just try to keep people who otherwise would retire. Don't try to keep people from their retirement. They have worked decades and have earned it. That's one of the things that really, gets to me is when I hear politicians say, well, we just have people, retiring too early. No, we don't. People have earned their retirement. They've set up whatever benefits you laid out for them. And if they're good to go, they're good to go. Maybe rethink the xenophobia that's keeping you from having, a labor force that has been built in this nation for 200 years with people coming from around the world because they want to work here. Maybe address immigration reform rather than trying to just pass tax cuts for the super wealthy. But that's what people are doing now. And in our next hour, we're going to talk about what a couple of different groups are doing to bring attention to that. I also meant to mention earlier that Dan Hagan should be along from Newswatch 12, WJFW TV in Rhinelander, and we'll talk about some of the stories that he is following up in that part of the state. We also have for you a couple of different things from Courier Newsroom that we wanted to tell you about. We spent a little time yesterday talking about the video series, How Is This Better? With Akilah Hughes, covering everything from politics to entertainment to tech and late-stage capitalism. How Is This Better challenges a lot of the grifters controlling our government and our attention and so much of our daily lives. And there is so much to be said in Akila's newest episode called The Alpha Male Trap, which is all about the way that young men are especially vulnerable to messages about hypermasculinity and what it's doing not only to our politics, not only to our national discourse, but to their health, to their lives, to their relationships or lack thereof. And then the week before in her series, How Is This Better?, Akila Hughes looked at women and the whole trad wives trend and what the MAHA, Make America Healthy Again movement is doing. And again, put healthy in quotes when you talk about that. There are a lot of women seeking information on wellness and instead are being fed a steady diet of political rhetoric meant to tell them that, they don't need to work outside the home and that they should have a more traditional role. And what is that again doing to our labor force, to our economy, and to the aspirations of women who are told there's something wrong with them for wanting to have those aspirations? So again, that's from Akila Hughes, How Is This Better?, a series from Courier Newsroom. And you can either watch it on YouTube or watch or listen on Spotify. You can listen on Apple or you can watch from the Courier Newsroom website, couriernewsroom.com. In just a bit, we're going to be talking to Cam Stevenson, making the move from Arizona to Washington, D.C. to cover all things in the Capitol, in Congress, the White House, and elsewhere for all of us right back here at home, where we are at home, live from Lake Wissota, here on the Civic Media Radio Network. The Midwest Farm Report is coming up next. And the aforementioned Mr. Stevenson joins us now. How are you, buddy?
Good morning. I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm fine, but it's 7:30 Eastern time, so of course everybody's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. No, wait, you're still in Arizona, where the time is?
It is 4:30.
It is 4:30. I was afraid you were going to say that. Oh man.
So was I.
But you've made the adjustment. I don't know if you've met Parker yet, our producer, Parker, Cam.
I've not met you. Hi, how are you?
Okay.
Hey, I'm good, Parker. Nice to meet you. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. Nice to meet you too.
All right, let's see. Cam, national correspondent, Courier. Should we go with that, or do you need anything else down there below the name?
That looks long enough.
Okay. No, we can do anything with it. Especially now below the Beltway. Are we just telling people go to couriernewsroom.com to get that, or through some other avenue?
It's on. I mean, they can do that, or it's on Substack. The URL for it is beltway.news.
Okay,
so that works too.
Substack, Beltway. All right, there it is.
That was nice. A producer is a real operation. I thought it was just you with a couple of paper clips and
me and a couple of paper clips and a home computer. Yeah. Well, that's how it leaves here, but then somehow it manages to get over there, and then he makes it happen. Parker.
Somehow they tell me I get it to the air. I don't really know, but
yep.
Apparently I do.
It works.
I hear it's a series of tubes.
Yep, he does. He knows exactly where they are. So, all right, look at that, beltway.news. It works. It works. Okay, so I'll get that super made for that. How go the moving plans?
Oh, they're okay. They're okay. We're in a bit of a holding pattern. We're just getting the last final pieces of the housing stuff to all fall in place.
Oh, okay.
And so that just comes down to selling, getting things all figured out for a place we want to move into. We found a place, we love it. We're just waiting for the last little odds and ends to come together. But we're basically all packed up. Just waiting.
Okay, sounds good. Well, anyway, you look good. You sound good. We got just over 2 minutes left in the break, so let me tuck you back in the waiting room for a sec, and I'll come get you when we get rolling.
Great.
Here we go.
I'll be there.
Okay. Little reminder for you that you can reach the show. Send us a text through the Civic Media app. You can get that downloaded at all the usual app stores. Call up any of the stations, the 10 of them where you now hear our show across Wisconsin, and use the text feature to send us a note. Or you can record a voice note. Use the voice note button instead and send us a little audio message, and we may play it here on the show as well. Again, head to civicmedia.us to learn more about that. From Scott and Madison on the text line, we were talking earlier about, many people being in the political center. There's some people that are, further to the right, further to the left. Scott and Madison says, as you throw out further to the left, I would sure love a definition of that or an example that matches what further to the right examples could be given. And I don't know that I could give you a matching example, because the stuff that is further to the right is concerning. Further to the left, the one that came up most recently for me was hearing about Zoran Mamdani, the candidate for mayor in New York. And there are some people aghast that he wants to make bus fares free. And of course, we hear all about Democrats being the party of free stuff. But I can already counter that and tell you, the Staten Island Ferry in New York used to charge. It's now free because they understand the importance of getting commuters to work. And so when I always hear this, the far left wants things for free. Sometimes we forget there are plenty of things that are free already that we don't ask them to pay for themselves. There are no toll roads in Wisconsin. We just go, you know what? We need roads to move people around. And so let's make that free. But let me give some more thought to Scott's point, and we'll get into far left views versus far right views. Here's a guy that's got to deal with all of them coming up with his new gig in Washington, D.C. Cam Stevenson from the Copper Courier in Arizona, at least for a little bit longer, where it's 4:30 in the morning out there, but he's already on an East Coast time because of the new gig he's going to be starting covering Capitol Hill for Courier Newsroom. Cam, how are you?
I'm, a little sleepy, but that's why I rely on coffee. It's great to see you, Pat. Thanks for having me on.
See, we're very pro coffee here. Parker, not so much. We're still working to corrupt him and make him a coffee drinker, but the rest of us, we totally get it. So, along with the new duties, they include a newsletter from Courier Newsroom called Below the Beltway, and you can get that at beltway.news and, of course, through couriernewsroom.com. But, Cam, we're going to visit with you now, and then Congress is going on recess. You're going to move to D.C. from Arizona, and then we'll get all this started officially on Tuesdays, starting the day after Labor Day. So let's give a little bit of background first. I know you've been on the show a couple of times before talking about Arizona matters, but how in the world does a nice young man from Arizona end up having a discussion going, hey, you want to move to D.C. and cover the swamp for us?
Well, I'll tell you what, it didn't come easily. A lot of it was born out of necessity. It was something that I saw as a need for Courier, as much as I think our publisher and headquarters felt that with the incoming Trump administration that we were going to see a lot of what we saw during his first term, but magnified. There would be not only attempts by his administration to push the limits of what our laws are and what it means to be a democracy, but news outlets, more traditional ones, mainstream ones, who are more looking for access and increased viewership and to make money off of it than to actually report the news and what's going on. And we've seen that, we have a whole new term for it this time around, sanewashing, which is just people's desperate attempt to make these acts of authoritarianism and these, fascist efforts on the streets with our immigration police, try to make those things sound normal and routine and as if it's what we would see no matter what, which it's not. And so that's kind of where the idea was born, is we wanted someone with Courier's mission on the Hill, reporting and giving an opportunity for people to see what's going on at their nation's capital. And so I've been laying the groundwork the past few months as we've been getting prepared to move, and we'll really be able to hit the ground running once Congress comes back in the fall.
So sanewashing is the theme of your most recent newsletter edition here. And unfortunately, as disgusting as the entire Jeffrey Epstein matter is, it does give us perhaps the best way to talk about sanewashing, because it's one thing to say, let's take, evangelicals who love to criticize, Joe Biden, even though he went to church faithfully every week, but they think, Donald Trump is like some kind of exemplar who was, sent from above and as a flawed package, et cetera, et cetera. Sanewashing is just a way to say, what if the shoe were on the other foot? Would you still be making excuses for this person? And by and large, in the Trump administration, there's been a lot of that, we can excuse this, we can excuse this, we can excuse this. Now we get to this Epstein thing, releasing the files, and now suddenly it's a case of, a lot of Trump supporters going, wait a minute, if the shoe were on the other foot, if Joe Biden or somebody were holding up the Epstein files, we'd be crying bloody murder, and we're crying bloody murder that Donald Trump is not releasing these things. And you see where the sanewashing cycle actually does have, it is finite. It actually does have a limit.
Yeah. And I want to say this is probably the first time we've seen this with Donald Trump, honestly, since the Hollywood tapes from his first campaign, where people began to break with him, but then, they didn't in the end. But yeah, we're seeing an interesting shift and kind of a chasm appear where there's these people like the FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino, who essentially built his career on being an Epstein truther, for lack of a better term. And now he's being asked to essentially go against that, to do what he said he would never do and protect the rich and powerful at the expense of the victims of terrible crimes. And a lot of people they can't wrap their heads around that. They have built this persona of someone of a president who at all costs, even back in 2020, was, the conspiracy theories were that he was working undercover to unmask these terrible wrongdoers and was a man of the people. And if he only had 4 more years, then he could really, really get in there. And now they're with this, they're seeing the opposite. And I think that to them is insanity, and they can't, that's a bridge too far.
And I think by and large, they are actually seeing through the administration's efforts to change the subject. There was Trump over the weekend playing the race card, going, hey, we need to bring back the Washington football team name and the Cleveland Guardians baseball team. There's the going after, Harvard over and over again. Even yesterday, there was the release of files related to the assassination of Martin Luther King. I mean, they're throwing anything out there to change the subject. And Martin Luther King's daughter puts up a photo of Martin Luther King just kind of looking at the camera. And the caption says, great, now do the same with the Epstein files. After having released the MLK files, folks are understanding this. And so this is what I think that I think the attempts to, like you said, sanewash this are not going to happen this week. And I think what doesn't help is that the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who, let's face it, is not a beloved character. I mean, he seems like a good foot soldier to begin with, but now in saying, well, of course, we're for full transparency. We're doing everything possible to give full transparency, when they're actually doing the exact opposite, is just not a good look for a Speaker of the House that many people are already, shall we say, suspicious of.
Yeah, well, and I mean, he got his position by being, last picked on the on the team, right, 4 times over. He's not someone who has the charisma for the job or the ability to politic in the way that previous speakers could, but he's good at following directions and doing what he's told. And so that's what he's been doing. And he has been able to help get through, Trump's, the billionaire tax cuts through that budget. He was able to get this rescissions bill to, cut funding for public aid and public broadcasting. And I mean, well, that's about half of the legislation they've passed this year. But he's been able to do that. And so I think that they're just trying to, at this point, lie low and hope that Donald Trump stops talking about Epstein. Because honestly, at this point, he keeps bringing it up. And,
yes. It's like,
and I think that's part of their problem.
You can just see all these folks want to put their finger right on Trump's lips and go, stop talking. We're talking to Cam Stevenson, Courier Newsroom's new Capitol Hill correspondent. His Below the Beltway newsletter can be found at beltway.news. And one other quick story out of there, the way that local residents in some places are pushing back against ICE and the mass deputization of local cops. And we don't have time to get into all the different ways that police departments can work with the Department of Homeland Security and ICE, but you do tell the story of a founder of the group Indivisible Mesa. Her name is Jillian. And you're right, the idea of masked, plainclothes police officers smashing car windows, abducting her neighbors, and seeing friends sent off to internment camps did not sit well with her, and helped start a group that was putting pressure on their local police department. And that seems to be, Cam, the one way that everyday citizens can make a difference as to what degree will their local law enforcement be local law enforcement or a branch office of Trump's secret police.
Yeah, yeah, Jillian, her story is really, really impressive and amazing. She was, fairly politically inactive in the sense that she was living her life, paying her bills, working a few jobs until November. And then she saw Trump get elected. She wanted to find something to do. And so she found Indivisible, which I imagine a bunch of Indivisibles have, different groups and chapters that popped up throughout Wisconsin and the Midwest as well. Mm-hmm. So she started this group. It's now, 4,000 strong in just a few months. And they've been putting pressure on their city council to have them end partnerships with ICE. And this is something that I've seen and been tracking in different cities across the country. Not just that, but for cities to end or not engage with prison contracts with ICE as well. As the Trump administration is trying to arrest thousands of people every single day. They need a place to put them. And so they're quickly reopening prisons that have closed or starting private prison contracts to open these facilities in different states everywhere in the country. People have been able to successfully push back at the city council level to have those contracts, either canceled or not signed. And so this has just been a very effective way for people to actually oppose these policies in an effective way. Because when it comes down to it, it's all paperwork. And if you can stop that.
And by the way, it's not about like a sanctuary city where they don't enforce things. You can still enforce immigration status on people who have been arrested. There's a big difference between that and helping out on raids, getting again people from housekeeping who've broken no laws and things like that. Cam Stevenson's following all this and Below the Beltway. Find it at beltway.news, and we will talk to you more after Labor Day. Good luck with the move. We'll see you in D.C.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Cam,
I'll talk to you later.
Thank you very much. Today's history lesson is coming up next, as we always do, mornings here up north, powered by Up North News on the Civic Media Radio Network. There we go. We are in break, and gotta pop you back up there. There you go. All right, that was awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. No, that was good. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's kind of a sample of what we got there. All I'll do is I'll pester you the day before and see if there's anything else other than your most recent newsletter that you want to make sure we cover.
Cool. Yeah. No, that sounds fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Thank you so much. Take care. Yeah. We'll talk to you later.
Cool. All right. See you, Pat.
See you, Cam. Yep. Bye now.
Pat, I do want to warn you, because of the technical difficulties that we were having this morning, this is going to be clunky.
Okay, that's fine.
So
we'll make do. Do we know exactly what the difficulties were?
So I couldn't. What was causing it? No, I don't know that. Someone else, I think, does.
Okay.
But yeah.
But so you can still play things, but
I can't now. Okay. I'm all good now. I just didn't get to do it how I normally do it, and now I have to do it a really bad way.
Oh no, we're doing the bad way.
Yeah, but you'll be able to hear it. So
hey, that's what counts. All right.
This is not the worst way.
It's not the worst way, folks, of the history lesson you're about to hear. Just remember that. It could be worse. Let's see. Oh, we're getting kind of a bittersweet start here on today's history lesson with Bobby Sherman, who was born this day in 1943, but passed away less than a month ago at the age of 81. The singer, the teen idol, the TV actor, who later, when he was no longer a teen idol or a singer or an actor, became a paramedic. Liked what he was seeing on TV medical dramas, wanted to do it himself, and had a distinguished career doing that as well. The late Bobby Sherman, born this day, 82 years ago. Another big birthday in rock and roll history, and that, of course, would be Don Henley from the Eagles. He is 78 years old today. Where'd you go, Don?
I told you.
There we go. There's Don. Don Henley, 78 years old today, born in Gilmer, Texas, and one of the songwriters that I admire most, so much to love about his songwriting. There, of course, is, Sunset Grill, Dirty Laundry, The Boys of Summer. One of my favorites, Garden of Allah. One of those people that if you could have lunch with anybody and just pick their brain, I would love to hear him talk about writing songs. I would not really want to go to lunch with him because I understand he's rather prickly and he'd sit down at the table and go, "What the hell are you doing here?" But if he would just mind talking about songwriting, that would be great.
Nice.
Danny Glover is 79 years old today. Actor Willem Dafoe is 70 years old today. Okay, up next is the Supremes. You keep me hanging on, but not the Supremes. It was on this day in 1967 that the rock cover of You Keep Me Hanging On peaked on the Billboard charts. It was done by Vanilla Fudge. Doesn't really have the same sparkle, shall we say, but it did have its niche. It's still there. We're still playing it, 58 years later. Peaked at number 67 on the charts this day in 1967. Actor David Spade is 61 years old today. Little Prince George, the Prince of Wales, is 12 years old today. We've got a George Clinton birthday today, and I'll let you guess which one it is. Is it the former Vice President of the United States, or is it the guy from Parliament Funkadelic? Here's a hint. It's this one.
So the president.
I was going to say, so yes, as you can tell, it is the guy who was born in 1739. No, this is George Clinton's 84th birthday today. And yes, coincidentally, this coming Saturday marks the 1739 birth of the other George Clinton, the general turned politician who was America's fourth vice president, serving under two presidents, Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. So a lot of things around you that are named Clinton, Clintonville, Clinton Street, whatever the case may be, quite likely named for George Clinton. But if you want to go ahead and pretend that it was named for the guy from Parliament Funkadelic, you go for it. And you have that dance party. The late Kansas Senator Bob Dole was born this day in 1923. He passed away 4 years ago. A war hero from World War II, Kansas Senator, presidential nominee in 1996 as well. Happy birthday to Supertramp's Rick Davies, who is 81 years old today.
It was an early morning yesterday. I was up before the dawn. And I'm really having...
Let's see, this one, every so often I see one in the notes and I realize that Aaron Zommers would put some things in now and then to the notes. And just to remind me, just to keep me in my place. On this day in 2014, Weezer releases Back to the Shack, the lead single from Everything Will Be All Right in the End. And again,
it's very important you know that.
In cases like this, I never know if Zommers is punking me or not. Emily Saliers from the Indigo Girls is 62 years old today. Selena Gomez turns 33. And I learned because I watched TMZ that she had a big birthday party over the weekend, and Tay Tay was there. Taylor Swift attended.
I'm glad you're keeping up with pop culture.
That's what I know. I don't know Weezer, but I know Selena Gomez had a birthday party.
You know what? That's
I know William Shakespeare's play, The Merchant of Venice, was entered in the Stationer's Register. So it was registered this day in 1598. On this day in 1893, Catherine Lee Bates wrote America the Beautiful after admiring the view from the top of Pikes Peak near Colorado Springs, Colorado. And finally, one more for music. Great Britain on this day in 1956 unveiled its first ever albums chart. And there was an American on top of it. It was Frank Sinatra's Songs for Swingin' Lovers, which featured standards like I've Got You Under My Skin and You Make Me Feel So Young. Let's see. Today on the National Day calendar, we've got Casual Pie Day.
what?
I don't know.
Is there a serious pie day?
Well, it says here the fraction 22/7 is an approximate value of pi. And so that's why pi is also celebrated on July 22nd.
Huh. Well, there is a better national day today, Pat, and it's one that I know you can celebrate.
What's that?
National Hammock Day.
Ooh, yes, I'm in. And I got to say again, we got a new one this year. We put it on a frame instead of between two trees. And I may never go back. I think I found the right hammock for me. We had friends stay over the weekend, and the one friend got in there and was like, nope, it was downright claustrophobic, because it's cloth and it kind of, envelops you when you're in there. But I kind of liked the cocoon sensation. It's like
You're a cocoon guy, huh?
if I'm cashing out on that hammock, you just leave me alone. Yes. Hey, 2 more hours as we continue to get rolling on this Tuesday morning. These mornings powered by Up North News. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Okay, so that went.
Yes, that went. All right, I'll be back.
across Wisconsin on Civic Media. You're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Good morning. It's 7:06. Nice to have you here up north on this Tuesday morning, July 22nd. Parker Olson produces this fine program down in Madison Studio A2. Meteorologist Brittany Merlot will be joining us from the EAA Air Venture in Oshkosh in just a sec. And then later this hour, we will talk about ways that some groups in Wisconsin are holding politicians accountable. They may be about to go on their August recess, but that doesn't mean they won't still be held accountable for supporting a big bloated boondoggle of a budget bill in D.C. that's going to cause harm to a lot of folks in Wisconsin. We'll talk about those efforts and a successful effort to set a world record by some folks up north who want to call attention to potentially dangerous oil and gas pipeline that's running through parts of northern Wisconsin. So that and much more still ahead. But first, let's head out to the EAA Air Venture, where meteorologist Brittany Merlot has positioned herself to have the aura of a rising sun right behind her to tell us what's happening as she camps out at Air Venture in Oshkosh. Ms. Merlot, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing pretty good. As you can see, the sun is shining here. It is so bright this morning. I'm trying to block it out of the way, but can't really get around it between the sounds of the Oshkosh and then the sun. It is a beautiful morning. But I will say, when the sun comes up, every camper wakes up, right? You can't beat the sun. It wakes you up wide awake. There's a lot of clouds, though, all across the state. 57 degrees right now into Green Bay, 73 into La Crosse. We are going to heat things up, and the humidity is going to start to seep in as this warm front nears us today. So we are climbing to the mid-80s statewide to near 90 degrees far west. Those muggy, humid conditions are already moving in. Dew points are going to hit the low 70s today, and then by tomorrow morning, we are looking at some showers and storms definitely rolling through the area. Looks like they start around 5 a.m. Waves of them move through the state. Another one again in the evening and into the night. And that active pattern continues as that front sets up over northern Wisconsin and then drags itself through the rest of the state into Thursday. So as this moves in and continues to push this hot, humid air in, we're going to hit the mid-90s down south tomorrow. But then, of course, that rain going on up north, maybe some 70s up there. But it is going to be sticky. It is going to be feeling like triple digits with the heat index. And I am nervous with my tent. I'm not going to lie. I've got a little fan. It is solar powered, and that is all I have. I have no AC anywhere.
Ooh, well, you're doing the whole roughing it thing here to see all that's going on at Air Venture. Tell us some of the stuff you got to see yesterday that you enjoyed.
The blimp, the Goodyear blimp, there's multiple of them. I thought it was just going to be one. No, there was 3 of them here. They were massive, and it was cool to see them take off at like a 45-degree angle. I can't imagine being in there. It looked so much fun. There is just a bunch of planes everywhere, lots of people everywhere. It's hard to remember everything that happened yesterday because there's so many exhibits, speeches, things going on here that you can go and see. I would honestly say it's just making new friends. I've talked to a lot of volunteers here. I talked to the staff, security staff, to see what was going on and how they kind of run the event and what do they do when severe weather happens? How do they get them out of here? What do they do? How much warning do they have? So I was kind of digging into some of that kind of stuff, but overall, having fun.
Good. Do you measure steps? Do you know how many steps you put on yesterday?
Everybody was doing that yesterday. That's so funny. They were saying between 15 to 20,000 steps. I forgot to register mine, so I'll do it today. I'll let you know tomorrow.
That's you know what? I'll take it on faith that you did 15,000 steps yesterday.
Yeah, feels like it.
I am absolutely sure you did, and I think it's great that you're asking these questions about what happens if stormy weather happens out there. Obviously, it's happened, and folks are going to be looking at you and going,
I know.
Is it here yet? Is it coming yet? As if you carry around a radar, on your wristwatch all the time or something like that.
Wristwatch, I wish I had it on the wristwatch. That would be great.
I know.
The pocket.
But you mentioned that folks from NOAA and the National Weather Service are there as well. So, they are definitely covered in terms of, knowing what the weather is going to be like when it comes in. Have you heard much chatter yet about the near miss in North Dakota between the B-52 bomber and the commercial jet that was trying to land in Minot? Has that been a topic of conversation around there?
Ooh, not just yet. I'm sure that sounds like it's going to be a topic today, though.
I'm sure it
Awesome.
will, in terms of, yeah, who's got radar and who talks to who out there. So just so much to see and do around the Oshkosh area. So, Brittany, go enjoy it all. Are we talking to you tomorrow?
Yes, you are.
Depending on the weather, I suppose.
True.
And your comfort level. All right. Well, enjoy, and we'll talk to you next hour.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Brittany. Hey, by the way, a reminder that if you miss any of our shows last hour or something, yesterday or last week, and you want to catch up on it, you can head over to the Civic Media website, civicmedia.us, where every hour's program of this show and all the others are listed, hour by hour, and you can go back and listen, or you can subscribe as a podcast to catch us as well. You just have to head over to Spotify or Apple and get yourself subscribed to this program, all the others, and you will never miss a thing again. Let's check the mailbag here from Rob in Tigerton. Good morning. Hazy sunshine, 59 degrees yesterday with lawn mowing jobs in Wittenberg. You had spaghetti for lunch at Brianna's in Wittenberg. It was very busy. Most folks heading to the EAA. Today he's got lawn mowing jobs in Tigerton, getting them done before the heat, the humidity, and the storms come in. We played Supertramp in our last segment and said maybe there'll be a weather theme. Maybe tomorrow we'll play Supertramp's It's Raining Again, a song that they had back in 1982. So we thank Rob for writing in. And a reminder that you all can do the same thing here by getting on Facebook or YouTube, jumping into the comments section like Roger did in Stevens Point to talk about how the Miz is on the hill tonight. That, of course, would be Jacob Mizorowski pitching for your first place Milwaukee Brewers. Yeah, I said first place Milwaukee Brewers. They were winners against the Seattle Mariners yesterday. Final score was 6-0. In fact, while Brandon Woodruff went 6 strong innings, only gave up 2 singles, walked nobody. The fact of the matter was Seattle's George Kirby had carried a no-hitter into the 6th inning. But then the Brewers were able to bust things open. They tagged him for 4 runs after sending 8 men to the plate in the 6th, and 6-0 was the final there. The Brewers now have won 11 in a row, 60 of their first 100 games. That's the first time in team history. And as we mentioned last hour, they're doing it with a different roster than the one that won the division last year. I mean, no Willie Adames, no Corbin Burns, no Devin Williams, but they're still getting things done. And Jacob Mizorowski, one of those new faces, will be the pitcher tonight. Pregame begins at 8:05 on several Civic Media stations. Then they'll wrap up the series in Seattle tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow's pregame will start at 2:05 in the afternoon. They are off on Thursday, and then they come home for a weekend series against the Florida Marlins. And then, of course, that really big series starting next Monday at home against the Chicago Cubs, because with yesterday's win, the Brewers moved into first place. They're holding it down on their own for the first time since early to mid-April. And so that Cubs series next week is just going to loom so much larger as we really start to head into the final third of the season happening before long. Across the Civic Media Radio Network today, Jane Matinaire has Matinaire on Air along with Greg Bach coming up from 9 to 11 following our festivities here. Todd Alba will be joining Jane and Greg at 9:30. And then on Todd's show, Todd Alba's show from 2 to 4, you'll have Surjita Patra of Wisconsin Watch talking about increasing suicide rates among senior Wisconsinites. Then Maggie Dawn from 4 to 6 will have Angela Lang from Block in Milwaukee just after 4 o'clock, and State Senator Kristen Dassler-Alfheim just after 5 o'clock. Again, all of that coming up here on the Civic Media Radio Network, where there aren't just programs here. There are also podcasts, and that would include one called Wisconsin Forward with Matt Rothschild. It's a weekly dive into a topic surrounding a current political problem in the state, a little background on how we got to where we are today and what some folks are working on now, possible ways forward. It's a uniquely Wisconsin take on the big issues that are preventing progress and the people with ideas to move forward. You can subscribe and download Wisconsin Forward on Spotify, Apple, or on the Civic Media website as well. Every Tuesday or so, we try to give you an idea of what some of the most popular stories are over on our social media sites. If you search for Up North News or Up North News WI, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can see all the work that the rest of my team is doing throughout the course of the day. And I can tell you, looking at some information that Sharita Booker, our social media manager, shared with us, a preview of the EAA Air Venture was among the top 3 stories on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter late last week, in part because of the economic impact. You see, the last time anyone tried to measure the economic impact of that week-long fly-in, it came to about $170 million. But that study was done several years ago, and a new report is out and updates that figure. It is now a $257 million boost to the local economy. Actually, the regional economy, when you consider how far away you have to go to get a hotel room or camping space when you have more than 500,000 folks coming to town for the event. Over on Facebook, our most viewed story was about Pewaukee's future NFL Hall of Famer J.J. Watt. He recently stopped by a Badger football practice in Madison and also had some thoughts on little brother T.J. Watt's new contract extension. That'll pay T.J. over 3 years what J.J. made in more than a decade in the NFL. On Instagram, far and away the post that was most viewed, most shared, and most commented on dealt with the Trump administration trying to withhold nearly $7 billion from Wisconsin school kids and State Attorney General Josh Kaul's lawsuit to get those cuts restored. It's one of about 24 lawsuits that Kaul and other attorneys general have filed as courts continue reminding President Trump that he's not a dictator, not yet anyway, and still has to follow the law, at least sometimes, when it comes to providing the funds that Congress had already approved earlier. And over on TikTok, our top post dealt with homelessness in rural Wisconsin. It is very much a growing problem, and rural communities, of course, are already facing tough budgets when it comes to helping people who are just trying to keep a roof over their heads. But while Governor Tony Evers proposed solutions, Republicans in the legislature, a great many of them from rural districts, removed any increase in state help before passing the new state budget. And as always, you can read up about all of our latest posts on your favorite social media channel, plus our newsletter, plus our website, upnorthnewswi.com. And in terms of Governor Evers and his state budget, of course, we're now waiting on him to tell us whether he'll be running for re-election. Will he run for a third term next year or not? We will be talking in just over an hour from the recombobulation area. That would be Dan Shafer, because it's a quiet time in Wisconsin politics right now. I know I've tried booking some legislators as guests. We're going to have a couple coming on this week to talk about a bill that would help regulate cryptocurrency in Wisconsin, make sure that there aren't scams that can rip people off, especially when you see these ATM-looking things that let you deal in cryptocurrency, making sure that they really are worth something if you're going to try to do business here in Wisconsin. So we'll have State Senator Kelda Roys and State Representative Ryan Spouty on Thursday morning to talk about that. But otherwise, things are a little quiet out there in politics land. We'll talk to Dan Shafer about that in an hour. A local update is next for some of you. Others will visit with Dan Hagan from Newswatch 12 and Rhinelander. Live from the heart of America's up north here on Lake Wissota. Thanks for making this the place to spend part of your mornings here on the Civic Media Radio Network. There's the man now.
Good morning. How are you guys?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well.
All right. Hey, we're if you're good with this, we're going to play Ian's report from yesterday on WXPR funding.
Okay.
So
that sounds good.
I mean, well, we're just going to play it from where you toss it to him, so we won't hear your toss to Ian, but we'll just kind of have you do that. We'll start to talk about it.
Okay.
And you just say, "Yep, we had Ian on, and let's give a listen to his report or something like that," and then we'll just play that package.
Cool. Okay.
If that's okay with you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, sounds great. And I like the moving background behind you there. It's like you're doing the news from outside.
Oh,
no, not now. The clip that we saw last night.
Oh, I see. Yeah. It's
the
cool.
news set.
Yeah, I like it.
So is that what you normally have as a big video screen behind you?
Yeah, pretty much always. Yeah.
Okay. Very nice. I mean, you clean up real good.
Why, thank you. Yeah, I need to do a little bit of shaving, but I'll do that right after this.
Yeah, no, it's all good. How goes the roller skiing?
Yes. I haven't done it in a while. I've been biking and running, and I've been really into pickleball lately.
Oh.
I can also mention Rhinelander pickleball courts are going to be celebrating 5 years to today, actually.
Okay. Did the pickleball courts, are they their own thing, or did they take over / share tennis courts?
They took over dilapidated tennis courts.
Yes, because
Okay.
nobody's playing tennis anymore.
No.
Hey.
Because almost nobody's playing tennis anymore. So.
Nah, I don't anymore.
Okay. Well, see.
Pickleball is awesome. I played yesterday and the day before, and I'm playing today.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. 30 seconds, and then we'll be up. Nice to have you back on this Tuesday morning, July 22nd, 2025. Let's bring in Dan Hagan from Newswatch 12, WJFW TV in Rhinelander. Dan, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Good morning from Rhinelander. We got a pretty decent day out there with some cloud cover.
All right. Are you still doing your roller skiing? Kind of your well in advance training for next year's Birkebeiner?
Right. We only have 211 days till the Birkebeiner. Just kidding. I made that up. I don't know. But yeah, I've been roller skiing and staying active. I'll be going on a bike ride with my dad today is the plan.
Okay. Wait, now your dad, who's won, continues to beat you in most of these Birkebeiners, is the biking competitive as well?
Yeah, he is a beast. I only got half of his athleticism. My mom kind of, washed it out a little bit with her lack of athleticism.
You're blaming mom. Okay.
No, I'm
All
joking,
right.
I'm joking.
Jeez, I didn't know I canceled out.
That's I didn't know it worked that way. That's awesome. I don't have to practice. My mom's, look at her. I mean, come on.
Of course I am just teasing.
I know.
Yeah.
But you have another favorite athletic endeavor as well, and it's not tennis. It's using those things that used to be tennis courts.
Yeah, so we're celebrating 5 years of the Rhinelander pickleball courts today. There will be a little kind of game going on at 5:30 p.m. this evening. And it's kind of remarkable because there's a community just north of us, Eagle River. They're still trying to get their first pickleball courts, but this craze is still kind of sweeping the nation. Pretty much every community has them. And man, they are packed every day. So good for them.
Okay. I get, okay. So you play, so you get it. And I'm going to offend a bunch of people, but it's a legitimate sport to you, the way that you're playing. This is something you could play frequently.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm working up a sweat, and it's a good combination of strategy and just sport, I would say.
There you go.
Jim, a professional thing, I think of it too.
Oh, of course
yeah.
there is, yeah.
It's going wild. Yeah.
It's over there on ESPN 8, the Ocho. From the text line, Jim in Brookfield, Dan, if you are roller skiing in this heat for the Berkey, you are a true believer with Berkey fever. So folks are noticing.
I'm always got Berkey fever. Maybe not the month after the Berkey, but then it starts going again.
Sure. All right. Stories that you're following up there on Newswatch 12 include one that you had yesterday. Tell folks a bit about when we hear about what's happening in Washington, D.C. and funding for public broadcasting, I think a lot of folks don't realize that hits close to home, and that includes Rhinelander.
Yeah, so Rhinelander, doesn't have a lot of news. We have WJFW, my TV station, and we have the local radio station. And then we have some newspapers that are not as well staffed as they used to be. So when you hit one of the media partners, it really impacts everyone. And WXPR is a fantastic public radio station, and they recently lost $171,000 because of this rescissions package done by Congress to cut funding for PBS and public radio. So I think we have a story from Ian that we can play.
On the evening of July 17th, the House of Representatives finalized a $1.1 billion cut for the Corporation of Public Broadcasting, creating financial insecurity for local radio stations such as WXPR in Rhinelander.
Just because you live in a rural area does not mean that you shouldn't have access to information and news that's happening in your community or around the nation, around the world. So that's an important piece that WXPR offers to the community.
In the Northwoods, many residents rely on WXPR's services, ranging from regular broadcasts to community outreach and emergency alerts. But a 25% cut could put operations at risk.
I think it's easy to assume that everyone is connected and the internet can deliver everything, but that's still not the case. Radio is still needed. Other forms of broadcasting are still needed in this area.
Over 50% of WXPR's annual budget comes from listeners, but with the finalized cuts, that support is integral to help operations continue smoothly.
We have always really leaned on our listeners, not only for financial support, but also to tell us what they prioritize. And so we will be leaning on them to say, what is it that you really value about the station?
Development Director Phoebe Spear says that they try to build a culture of authenticity at WXPR, highlighting local events that would otherwise get ignored, strengthening the community in the process.
People really value hearing something that's not an algorithm. They value hearing from their neighbors. And that's what they get here at WXPR. They value that, and that's what we offer.
WXPR is holding their annual summer pledge drive from July 18th to the 26th, and they're asking all their listeners for support. Reporting in Rhinelander, Ian Ferris, Newswatch 12.
Public broadcast.
So there you go. Again, it's a big chunk. It's not everything. There's still, a lot of listener support that goes on there, but it seems more than ever we're now in this age, Dan, where if you want local news, you've got to find ways to outwardly support it. You can't just turn a dial and expect that everything's going to be as it always has been.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Quarter of their funding came from the federal government, $171,000. And I liked what Phoebe said there at the end. People don't want algorithms. I fear that it's only going to get worse, with news consumption and how it can be tailor-made and often AI generated and often nefarious. So, yeah, more important than ever to support your local broadcasters.
I mean, gosh, you say AI, and I mean that should make the case right there, because the stuff that's going on out there, it's referred to as slop, but it can be serious stuff, and you think, well, it's just a national thing right now, but I mean, we're going to be seeing stuff at the local level before you know it, and it's more important than ever to identify and support those trusted journalists like what you've got up there at the TV station. So thanks for bringing us kind of the attention to that matter, to a very valuable news outlet there, as is your own WJFW. Appreciate that, Dan. Thanks, and keep cool out there on the pickleball courts and on the roller skis.
That's right. I think I'm going to hit the bike ride today with Dad. I got to keep up with him. So thanks.
Oh, man.
Thanks
All
for
right. Biking down the old man yet. Got to catch him.
Right.
All right. Thanks, Dan. We'll talk to you later. When we come back, we'll talk more about those federal budget cuts and ways that groups are calling attention to them long after the ink is dried on the bill. The impact is going to be felt for a long time to come. And we'll talk more about that in just a bit after the Midwest Farm Report here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Remember to stay up to date on our unabashedly Wisconsin news. Sign up for our newsletters at upnorthnewswi.com. Click subscribe in the banner on top of our homepage. That includes our weekend newsletter, Sunday mornings with Pat Kreitlow, where there is a question of the week that we like to share. And this time around, it's about candidate for governor Bill Berrien already dropping $400,000 in advertising to build up his name ID, because nobody knows Bill Berrien outside of his friends and family and his Christmas card list. So he's got to advertise, even though it's more than a year before the primary for governor, and without even knowing if Governor Tony Evers is running or not. So our question of the week asks what you think of that. Is it a case of A, you hate it? In fact, you hate it so much you might even hold it against him for running ads this early. What about option B, where it's I don't like it, but I get it? You know, you gotta spend some money to get your name ID out there. And we gave you an option C, you like it. You actually like that a candidate shows some initiative and wants to talk to voters right away. Well, Joe H. probably sums it up best. She didn't just put A. She put like a string of them, like A, with an angry emoji face after that. And Mary writes, I hate it, in all caps. And then she writes, sorry for the all caps. Wishing there was a time limit as to when campaigns run, including all ads and mailings and social media. Mary, how great would that be if we could just have everything limited to a very brief time frame to get all the information out there, but not have it last for a year or 4 years or whatever. Linda Z went with option B, saying, I don't like it, but I get it. And she too writes, I still think all campaigns should be limited to 6 months prior to voting day. You know, that might actually make for a good follow-up question of the week is, you know, if you could limit campaigns and say, you know, they're going to be announced here and the deadlines are here, the election day is here, how much should they be? Because, you know, at some point, if an election campaign is too short, you're not going to be a very well-informed voter. You may not learn everything about a candidate until after they've taken office. We already know campaigns can be too long. I'm just saying that they can be too short as well. So Goldilocks, what's just right? Is it 2 months? Is it 6 months? Something like that. Again, I don't know that we could necessarily pull it off, but if you could, you and your magic wand, what would it be? You can always send us a note here, radio at upnorthnewswi.com is the email address, radio at upnorthnewswi.com. Let's do a follow-up for something we talked about in May, and it's all about the Enbridge Line 5 oil and gas pipeline that is slated to be rerouted around the Bad River tribal community, but still running through the Bad River watershed where it could pose a danger to Lake Superior. And back in May, we heard from Jadine Sonoda of the Sierra Club for Wisconsin, and a project where they were trying to break the world record for the most origami fish collected and displayed. Why collect origami fish and have them displayed? As a way to show public opposition to Line 5, not just the reroute, but to the line existing entirely. And it seemed rather ambitious. They were going to have to collect more than 18,303 origami fish, but they put up a website, fishforfuture.org. And so here's a little bit of what Jadine Sonoda told us back on May 5th about the project, about the origami fish, about standing up to the Enbridge Line 5 project and a club here in Wisconsin.
Yeah, so the Wisconsin chapter, as you said, is part of the broader organization of Sierra Club, which operates across the nation. We focus a lot on statewide issues. So we've got members and volunteers really across the whole state working on a variety of issues, also focusing on local issues in particular areas. But yeah, we're really looking at climate conservation and how all of these pieces intertwine with environmental justice. And so today I'm here to talk a little bit about one of our campaigns focused on Line 5.
And that Line 5, for folks that don't know the full background on it, it is a pipeline that has existed for decades. It's getting near the end of its natural lifespan, and there's certainly been dispute from the Bad River community, and to the point where Enbridge is looking to reroute the line around the reservation community there. But even rerouting that line, Jadine, would not take it out of the potential to do immense harm to the Bad River, and then, flowing right into Lake Superior, not that far away.
Yeah, absolutely. There's some incredible maps that look at the route that Enbridge, the pipeline company, is proposing to construct in, and just the number of waterways that it cuts across. It's really scary to think about. We've seen the impacts of Enbridge's construction, for example, with Line 3 in Minnesota a couple years ago, and just the devastation of punctured aquifers and frac outs of drilling fluid. So there's a lot of worry that this construction and continued operation of the pipeline would result in damages both to the waterways and to especially the sloughs in the area and Lake Superior.
And so wherever that line ends up going, it could be a potential threat. We've certainly seen it spill in other places like Michigan. Enbridge had a major spill there. And so let's get into the project that is designed to demonstrate public opposition to, that potential for an environmental disaster. What is the world record that you're trying to set, and how are you going about doing it?
Good question. So, we're really looking for something fun and a way to talk about this that's positive and uplifting. And we were thinking, what better way than to try and set a world record? We're going to be attempting to break the world record for our largest collection of origami fish. The record is currently 18,303. We are working our way up towards that number. But the intention here is to really find a way to talk about Line 5 and especially the importance of protecting the Great Lakes while we're doing a fun activity, a way to get people engaged from all age spans, from places that might not be interested in just hearing about Line 5, but think an art project is really cool. It's been amazing. I feel like people have been really excited about it. And kind of like I had mentioned before, we've got a lot of new people who are learning about the importance of protecting the Great Lakes and how Line 5 threatens the Great Lakes. We've got a lot of schools who are participating. I've heard of someone who is bringing this to a nursing home that they work in. We've got a lot of faith communities who are participating. Just in general, I feel like it's been a really great opportunity to reach more people and find something that is really exciting and a way to uplift the positive pieces of protecting the water and the watersheds and the areas that we all live in.
So that was Jadine Sonota back on May 5th talking to us about the Sierra Club role in collecting the origami fish. So here's the update as we got from Megan Whitman out at the Sierra Club. Again, the number that they had to break for collecting fish was 18,303. The final total they've collected, 86,262. I mean, they smashed the world record. What is that's like 5 times the amount that they were seeking to get, which again they believe demonstrates tremendous opposition to the project. They said they received fish from all 50 states plus Puerto Rico, Canada, Mexico, and the Netherlands. Fish were made by more than 70 groups across the Great Lakes region, including religious organizations, schools, scouting groups, climate action organizations, and more. So a successful effort to get a world record and call attention to a big environmental priority here up north. Also taking place recently was a program put on by the group Opportunity Wisconsin to highlight Donald Trump's big bloated boondoggle of a budget bill and all of the cuts that are coming to regular middle-class Wisconsin families to help pay for tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires. And Opportunity Wisconsin paired up with an ice cream parlor in Eau Claire to start a food drive to call attention to the cuts to nutrition programs. That's because Sunday was National Ice Cream Day, and the owner of Ramon's Ice Cream Parlor in Eau Claire was part of a food drive that is going to help a local charity, the Community Table, and call attention to the cuts in food benefits being supported by their congressman, Derek Van Orden. So through the end of the month, anyone who brings in a non-perishable food item to Ramon's in Eau Claire is going to get a certificate for a free cone or dish. The folks at Opportunity Wisconsin noted that the Trump mega bill is going to cut food assistance for tens of thousands of Wisconsinites to pay for those tax breaks. Blaine Midtune, the owner of Ramones, has done all kinds of Cones for a Cause efforts, raising more than $300,000 over the years for various concerns. And he is understandably perplexed at how it's become a partisan thing, whether to give tax cuts to the rich or feed the poor.
Really, above everything, this should be a nonpartisan type issue at our local level, right here in the Chip Valley, right here in Eau Claire. Political parties have been founded on the belief that small government, but then when small government is in place, that it is up to local community, it's up to the churches, the spiritual institutions, it's up to our neighbors, it's up to our local officials, and it's up to each and every single one of us. So when things are good, we have that opportunity to spread money around, invest in ourselves, invest in our children, that kind of thing. But then we also have that opportunity to give back on a local level as well. And that's where those dollars are really important. That's where the community giving is really important. And that's something that we've really kind of strived for with Ramones in the last 9 years since we opened in 2017, is we have a program called Cash for a Cause. And in the 9 years that we've been open, we've raised and we've given back over $300,000 to local organizations and nonprofit institutions, just like the Community Table, many, many times over with the Community Table and other organizations here in the Chip Valley that are helping residents right here in Eau Claire, because there are shortcomings.
That's Blaine Midtune, again, the owner of Ramones. And the food drive, like I said, will benefit the Community Table. Executive Director TJ Atkins says about half the people they serve at the Community Table are currently unhoused, a stat that really jumped post-COVID. And from Opportunity Wisconsin, here's Ethan Reed, who talks about how really what Van Orden and Brian Style are doing amounts to a double whammy, not just the cuts in nutrition programs, but the increase in food prices from things like Donald Trump's trade war tariffs.
Just weeks ago, Congressman Derek Van Orden voted for the Republican tax law that cuts food assistance for Wisconsinites to pay for billionaire and corporate tax breaks. State officials have warned that as many as 90,000 Wisconsinites could lose SNAP benefits because of this law. At the same time, news reports show that tariffs are increasing the cost of food and other goods like the aluminum you see behind us, making it even harder for families to put food on the table. This is a double burden no family should have to bear. No family should have to worry about where their next meal is coming from or how they'll afford groceries, yet that is the current reality for too many Wisconsinites. Instead of alleviating this crisis, Congressman Derek Van Orden and Republicans in Congress are taking food from their constituents and raising prices to give more tax breaks to the wealthy.
And so Opportunity Wisconsin is, again, bringing up the tariffs as well. And he said the aluminum behind me, what he meant was all those canned goods. They're in aluminum cans. And so for everybody, whether their nutrition programs are being cut or not, they're going to face higher costs, all because of the tariffs that the Trump administration has put into place. All right, a local break is coming up next for some of you, and for others, we continue with our new regional segment Way Up North, where we're going to talk to folks who live up in the Bayfield, Ashland, Superior areas about issues that are important in far northwest Wisconsin. All that just ahead here on the Civic Media Radio Network. I'm Pat Kreitlow. All right, Kate, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. How are you?
I'm good.
Wonderful.
How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to talk about measles and tick-borne illnesses and some of the concerns that you have there, correct?
And we have 10 minutes?
We're going to have about 7 minutes here. We'll come back at just after 7:52, and we'll go until 7:59 or so.
Okay.
Really close to 8 o'clock, so we'll get into it there. And are there, how would you like to lead into this in a certain way in terms of, the uptick that you're already seeing in Wisconsin in terms of measles and or tick-borne illnesses?
Sure. I'll figure something out.
Okay. Not a worry, not a worry at all. So, okay. So we've got just over 2 minutes left in this break. So I will just tuck you back in the waiting room here. You sound great. So we'll look forward to chatting with you in just a moment, okay?
Sure.
Kate, give me your it says Dr. Kate Stolp. Fred did not include your specialty on here.
My specialty is physical medicine and rehabilitation, but I serve as Bayfield County Medical Advisor.
Bayfield County Medical Advisor. Gotcha. Okay, thanks. I'll talk to you in just a bit. There's Fred. How are you?
Good. Good morning, Pat.
Good. Nice to see you there. Thanks for coming on board.
You bet. Can you hear me okay?
Hear you great. Yep. We got just over a minute to go here. And was there a particular local hook that you needed that you wanted to start with in terms of either tick-borne illnesses or measles cases up in that part of the state?
Yes, and I should be joined any...
she's here. Dr. Stolp is here.
Kate Stolp. So if it's okay,
Yep.
I can say a few words and then turn it over to her.
I think that sounds great.
Kate's
Wonderful.
the medical director for Bayfield County.
Okay, great. We'll get started in 45 seconds here. We'll see you in just a bit.
Yep.
All right. $7:52 now on this Tuesday morning. Time to go way up north and talk about issues up close to the communities on the Lake Superior Shore and other areas of northwest Wisconsin. And we have a rotating panel of guests who will be joining us Tuesdays at this time, including former legislator Fred Clark, who's along with us. And in a moment, we'll be talking to Dr. Kate Stolp, the medical advisor for Bayfield County. Fred, good morning. How are you? Oh, Fred, I think you are you're muted or, yeah, you might be. Give that little button a push and tell me if you're still there. I know I heard you a minute ago, and now I'm not hearing you.
How about
for some
that?
reason. There you go. That's it. See,
Back at it.
It's like the old antenna on our TV. You had to move the antenna just the right way with the rabbit ears.
You got to kick the side of the box to make it come on right. Yeah.
That's right. And again, Dr. Kate Stolp is here as well. Kate, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. It's great to be here.
All right. Well, Fred, let's have you set this up to talk about a couple of different concerns up north, both tick-borne illnesses, which are being exacerbated by a changing climate, and measles cases, which are being exacerbated by people in Washington, D.C. and elsewhere. Fred, tell us a bit more about why this is such a concern for you and others up north.
Well, so here we are in the heart of the summer tourist season here in the Bayfield Peninsula, and like many parts of the state, lots of visitors in the area right now from other states and other parts of the world. It's a great time of year. One climate issue we've been seeing, that many of us have experienced, is the wildfire smoke from some of these massive fires in Canada that, of course, are highly disruptive to Canadians. And we've seen the impacts of that here too, with reduced visibility and some air quality problems. But especially was hoping to talk with Kate Stolp today. Kate's a friend and she's a medical director for Bayfield County. And one of the things, of course, they're keeping an eye on is some of the infectious diseases that we all need to be concerned about. I learned a lot a few weeks ago talking about measles with Kate and her colleague, Dr. Ann Reitz, and thought it might be valuable to hear from her today.
Oh, without a doubt. Dr. Stolp, tell us more about the rising concern about rising measles cases.
Well, first of all, let me say we haven't had any measles cases yet, but we have seen a big rise. Everyone knows about Texas, I think, having quite a few measles cases this year, but Texas, measles is in almost every state in the United States now, and we are surrounded by Michigan, Illinois, and Minnesota, all of whom have had measles cases, including in the Upper Peninsula. There have been 4 cases. And the issue is that I think because a lot of people thought measles was eradicated, or there was fear of autism, which is an unfounded fear, and we could get into that if we needed to, but a lot of people quit vaccinating their kids. And we only have 67% of our kindergartners vaccinated right now. And so if we get measles, it could be bad. And you have to realize that measles hasn't been around for so many years that doctors haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Health providers haven't seen it. And so if we get it, it could spread like wildfire, keeping people out of school, in any of their activities, adults, infants, and seniors are, of course, the most vulnerable, and it's highly, highly contagious, far more contagious than COVID, for example.
And that 67% of kindergartners, that is one of the lowest rates in the nation, right? I mean, it is.
That is.
It
That
is just an absolutely shameful figure, and that's why the word is getting out about how bad measles is, and a lot of people have just frankly forgotten about it. Kate, can you tell us briefly as well about the concerns about tick-borne illnesses? I know as I was learning more about a changing climate, we think about so many of the big things. We don't think about the little things, and how drier, hotter conditions allow ticks allow their territory to spread and cause more issues.
Right, exactly. And the biggest concern right now, I mean, we all know about Lyme disease, and there are a number of tick-borne illnesses, but there's a new one on the horizon. It's been around for a while, but now we're starting to see it, and we've had 2 cases this year in Bayfield County, called Powassan, named after Powassan, Ontario, where it was first discovered. And Powassan, the danger with this one is there's absolutely no treatment. There's no doxycycline. There's no antibiotic. There's no viral treatment. And 10% of people who get it will have either serious neurologic damage or die. And there's nothing we can do for it. And so being careful about tucking your pants in your socks, using DEET-containing bug spray, mowing your lawns, all of those things, taking a shower as soon as you come in from being out in the woods or the grass, really important.
And of course, then the last thing, and we've got just over a minute left to talk about that, would be the wildfire smoke. And again, Dr. Kate Stolp is the Bayfield County Medical Advisor. A very genuine concern. It's much more than just a nuisance for very vulnerable groups, right?
Yes, obviously. We already know, many people, especially older people with lung conditions, that can't even go outside. But we do know that when we look at the increasing numbers of people with asthma, that probably the number one cause of that is air pollution. And the wildfires obviously are making that worse and exacerbating that.
Yeah. And Fred, I can't imagine that sternly worded letter from Tom Tiffany and others to Canada did a lot of good in that sense. Maybe the time to pay attention was a generation earlier when we were talking about a changing climate.
I don't think it did much good at all, other than put a stick in the eye of the Canadians, who are well aware of the challenges that they face, many of which have been made worse by greenhouse gases emitted from U.S. industries. So we need to be cooperating with the Canadians and not sending them sternly worded letters about fires.
No kidding. Thankfully, they did respond with appreciation for the U.S.-based firefighters that are going up and helping, being helpers, not just whiners. So, Fred Clark, thank you for that. Dr. Kate Stolp, medical advisor for Bayfield County. It was a pleasure talking with you. Thank you for sharing some information with us, Kate.
Thank you very much. I'm glad we had this chance.
Yes, thank you. Fred, have a great day yourself.
You as well. Take care.
All right. Chad Holmes and Dan Shafer coming up in the next hour here on these mornings powered by Up North News, live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network. There we go. We're set. Kate, thank you again. Appreciate it so much.
Yes, it was great to have this opportunity. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, you as well. Hope we can do it again soon. Take care now.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Pat, just want to give you a heads up here. Brittany said that she was having some connectivity issues, and it's pretty loud right now. She's going to try it, but we're not 100% sure it'll go well.
Okay, that's fine. Well, let's see how she's doing now. Is she in the tent? She's in the tent. This is so awesome.
Oh, this is sweet.
Welcome to MTV Cribs, everybody. It's
Right.
This is perfect.
Oh, that's so funny.
Good signal. You sound good too.
Yeah,
Okay,
this
good.
is
Yeah.
actually the best you've sounded so far.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got
I'll
you away
stick here.
So
Make it
yeah,
easier.
you just want to stay in the tent for the rest of the week.
Yeah. Well, no, I
especially
mean,
with the rain tomorrow.
you've obviously set the scene, so we know you're there. We could see the porta potties and,
Right.
the crowds and the noise, so we're good to go there.
We're good now.
Okay, sounds great. All right, see you in a bit.
Cool.
All right, then there you are. How you doing this morning?
Doing good.
All right. Anything on your agenda here? I haven't put up anything yet. I haven't looked at what's going on in your neck of the woods. And if not, that's
Not
fine.
at the top. Let me. the
Okay,
top
no,
of my head.
not a worry. All right, 30 seconds.
Live across Wisconsin on Civic Media, you're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Good morning. Welcome back. Nice to have you here up north from Lake Wissota on this Tuesday morning, July 22nd, 8:06 the time right now. We've got Parker Olson producing this fine program down in Madison Studio A2. We've got Chad Holmes standing by from 98.9 WXCO in Wausau, and meteorologist Brittany Merlot reporting live from EAA Air Venture in Oshkosh, where we have chased her back into the tent for sound muffling purposes. It's amazing how when you get together thousands of planes and people, it gets a little noisy out there. And so back at the campground, things are a little more quiet.
They are. All the
Yeah.
volunteers and people have gone inside now, and now I get to sit here in peace and quiet in my hot tent. It's getting hot in here.
It is, aren't you? You got the one fan that you said is.
Yep.
Is
Here's the good old fan. It's a trusty
That's-
old solar power fan. The only air moving in here at the moment. Got the windows open, trying to stay cool. But, it's a beautiful day here. The sun is shining awesome in Oshkosh. But I know a lot of the state is pretty cloudy out there this morning. Temperatures right now, 63 degrees to about 73 degrees statewide. Winds aren't moving too much either. We've got that warm front starting to push on in. We do have a small chance for a few spotty sprinkles that could pop up later this afternoon, far northwest in the state. Otherwise, we're just going to get warm and muggy today. The dew points climbing into the 70s alongside temperatures going to the mid 80s statewide to near 90 degrees far west in the state. And it's just going to be feeling very sticky, oppressive out there, and only getting worse as we go through to tomorrow. An extreme heat warning is going to go out tomorrow, starting at 10 a.m. through Thursday, 7 p.m., because it's going to be feeling like triple digits. Of course, temperatures are going to climb into the 90s, dew points still in the 70s, so it is going to be very hot and sticky as we go through the next few days. And that front's going to spark some strong to severe storms potentially, too. We've got a slight risk throughout the state starting off tomorrow and kind of moving its way through. I'd say 5 a.m. expect some storms to start to spark tomorrow. And then by 8 a.m., it looks like they're going to hit me in Oshkosh. And of course, we are also looking at more sparking up behind that tomorrow night, and then waves as we go into the evening as well. So some active weather headed our way. Of course, strong winds, hail, and tornadoes are possible too. But not today. Today's still decent. We're just building the heat today.
Good. Now, we talked last hour about what you did yesterday, walking around, seeing things, the Goodyear blimp and other sites. So now you're going into today. Do you make a plan? Because I looked at the schedule. It is ambitious. There's a lot going on at any given time. So do you go through with kind of a list of things that you want to hit, or are you just completely freewheeling?
So over the years, I have learned to pick one thing a day that you want to do and just make that your priority, and then everything else will fall into place. If you've got one thing, you'll accomplish it. So my one thing today is going to be warbirds. I'm going to be headed over to the warbird section to see what they're doing. I know that they got the B-29s back again, and it's rare to see them, so I'm pretty excited for that and see what they have going on there. They have reenactments and awesome, cool-looking planes. And then I think tomorrow I'm going to go to the aerobatics So all the upside down, loopy guys flying around, see what they're up to.
All right. And from Robin Tigerton, a little advice: drink plenty of water. He says, I got Greg in my head now when I'm mowing. And she's got the water bottle. She is ready to go. I'm assuming you're sitting cross-legged in your tent there in Oshkosh, which is, I mean, I'm just kind of jealous as somebody who's now officially now too old to sit cross-legged on the floor the way that other people can. So much less
I know.
get in the tent. So Tom and Jackson on the text line telling you to be safe as well today, but just enjoy the day.
Thank you. Thank you so much, you guys. You're the best.
All right. We'll talk to you a little later. Thanks,
All
Brittany.
right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Chad Holmes joins us as well from Wausau. Chad, if I might start going back to the comment sections here. And some folks, I don't put it up on screen or share names. Some comments just deserve a quick response. And this one from our last segment about the increase in measles cases, the increase in tick-borne illnesses. The comment says, I'm 71. Any reason why I would care about ticks and kids getting measles? And sir, I assume sir, this show is not here to teach you to care. If you don't care by now about kids getting measles or a changing climate or whatever, this might not be the show for you. We're here specifically for people who care.
I'm gonna be Santa Claus here this morning.
Oh,
because I'm gonna be nice to that guy.
Okay.
I'm gonna give him an article that he'll probably just love reading.
All right.
Because I'm gonna make him feel good this morning. Because if this guy wants to have somebody tell him things that this guy wants to hear, go to WausauPilotsAndReview.com and listen and read Tom Tiffany's letter to the editor from yesterday.
Oh, no.
Because this guy probably say, boy, that Tom is telling me all the things I really want to hear. And this world is perfect because people like Tom Tiffany are doing the right things. Actually, it's I think it's similar here. It's like this gentleman obviously doesn't give a darn about anything outside of the four walls of his house. And I think for the most part, even those that disagree with us politically, they do care. And there can be disagreements on maybe what the best path forward is. And I know there are disagreements. In fact, on Saturday, I had an event. And it was for a local group that provides help for families in our area that are battling cancer. And this is it's very interesting because I really like what they're doing in terms of there are other groups that are raising money to try to find the cure, but this group is actually taking care of people that are in the midst of it right now, especially kids, being able to send them off to a camp. And I had a discussion with one of the gentlemen involved in this group on Saturday. I didn't want to be honest with you. On Saturday, I don't want to go deep into some of these conversations, but he sat down and starts talking about how wishes there were no taxes at all, that everybody should just take care of everybody else, that would be better off if we were, just basically had no government. And boy, and I'm thinking, I really don't want to get into this on a Saturday morning, but I got into it and I gave my point of view that number one, it's a self-fulfilled prophecy when it comes to those on the right, when it comes to government, and the best government being no government, because you run on government being bad. When you get in, of course, you're gonna what incentive is there to be good government, because they say it's all bad. And then they got into the discussion of the Gilded Age, and I was drained by the end of it, but I don't know where I'm going with this.
I tell you what,
that guy kind of just got me going on that.
I had such an interesting conversation yesterday with somebody who was here to work on one of our appliances. So it had this appliance service tech in, and he's hearing me, and then we get to talking afterwards, and he, like many folks up here, describes himself as a conservative. He listens to a lot of talk radio throughout the course of the day, but he is increasingly turned off by the extremism of the far right talkers. And as I made my points with him, as I've done countless times over the years, and talking to people who are, center right to my degree of being center left, and we agree that there's so much more of us in the center. We're turned off by extreme voices, by my way or the highway, and we're looking for ways to work together. And by the time all said and done, he was like, I wish I would have had a chance to vote for you back when you were in the legislature and all that. And again, it sounds good in theory, but you have to have these conversations, as difficult as they are. And I wasn't sure I wanted to get into this conversation, but, you know, people do genuinely want to express themselves without being told, you know, you're wrong, you're dumb. But instead, have you thought of it this way? And that's the way we're going to move forward, you know, in this country is having to have, you know, one conversation at a time. Now, I'm not saying it can overcome $1 billion worth of political ads,
Right.
but you got to start somewhere.
And I think the bottom line point to be made in this is I disagreed completely with this gentleman in terms of that conversation when it came to his viewpoint on what government should or should not be, and the role of government and the role of taxes and the like. But at the same time, this is a gentleman that's actually putting up. You know, it's either put up or shut up.
Yeah.
Well, this guy's putting up. He is actually out there working to provide help to families with cancer. So I have the ultimate respect there. And having these discussions with somebody like that, who I know has his heart in the right place, but yet is truly a believer that no government is the best government. And frankly, I think you probably had a better grasp of the conversation than I did, because I get too overly emotional at times when with some of these conversations. But I think the bottom line point is, man, I mean, you know, if I was to say, well, this guy, you know, believes in no government and no taxes, my first thought, well, this is a very selfish person, and this guy is not a selfish person. So there are so many complexities when it comes to the conversations and the issues at hand, and the point that we stand at, I guess, as citizens in our democracy in 2025.
Well, yes, and it's very clear that it's important where people get their information. I know that the gentleman I was talking to yesterday, you know, said a couple of things where I was like, well, if I were in more of a debate frame of mind, I would call things up and go, it's not exactly like that. It's more like this. But at the time, it was just better to listen and to say, okay, I'm hearing what you're saying. And when the time is right, maybe we'll carry that conversation a little bit further. But I am reminded of yesterday's conversation about primary elections. And we're going to visit that topic again with Dan Shafer in just under 20 minutes here. That there are some folks that will do anything to avoid primaries, Democrats and Republicans alike, that they're bad. And that, of course, gets other people very flustered. And I tell you, by the time that Kristen Lyerly and I got done having that conversation yesterday, we're pretty sure we cheesed off, you know, most of our friends in Democratic circles in one way or another, because they're both right and they're both wrong in various circumstances. And you just got to, again, the larger point being, you got to have the conversations about this on a case by case basis, whether it's should there be a primary versus should we raise the minimum wage versus, hey, you're helping these folks with cancer, but maybe we could have a system where people don't go bankrupt if they have cancer. Crazy idea. I'm going to talk about it in the next segment with the Affordable Care Act premiums going up, but maybe we need to fix the entire system so we don't need to have so much charity care going on out there.
No, that's exactly right. I mean, it's complex. People have to think. And I think, you know, having the conversation, I heard your conversation. There were points in your conversation yesterday where I was cheesed off on it. I mean, because when you start talking about, again, Rebecca Cook, my first thought comes, that dumb ad where she's standing in the middle of the road saying pox on both your houses.
Yes.
And I mean,
that really bothered you. I remember that. Yep.
And I know, and that is the honest truth. And so it's like, I don't want to clear the primary over there for that. I mean, so, but at the same time, there were so many good points involved in it as well. So it's like, there's so much to it. And
there's so much to it. And again, one conversation at a time. Don't tune out. It's the people who tune out entirely that concern me most of all, because then, I mean, you're susceptible to almost anything out there. Chad Holmes from 98.9 WXCO and Wausau. Catch him in Wausau for the local updates and, of course, across the Civic Media app and on the website as well. Thank you, Chad. Appreciate it. All right. Again, when we come back, some of you have a local break, and then later on, Dan Shafer in our next half hour from the recombobulation area, here live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Sorry about the Rogue 3 in the chat there.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Fat fingers.
If you missed it last night with the Brewers out on the West Coast, they were winners 6-0 over Seattle, meaning they're now at an 11-game winning streak. Brandon Woodruff, in just his third start of the season, after missing all of last year, went 6 innings through only 62 pitches, walked nobody, gave up just 2 singles, and your first place Milwaukee Brewers were 6-0 winners. It was a pitcher's duel for the first few innings. Seattle's George Kirby carried a no-hitter into the 6th, but then the Brewers' bats came alive. 4 runs scored in that inning. And so the Brewers are 1 victory away from George Webb Restaurants having to dole out some burgers, and 2 victories away from tying the Twins for the longest streak in the majors this season, because Minnesota won 13 straight back in May. So we are now 100 games into the season. The Brewers have won 60 and 40. First time in team history they've won their first, they've hit 60 wins in their first 100 games. And again, with a different roster than they had last time around. No Willie Adames, no Corbin Burns, no Devin Williams. But they do have some new faces like Jacob Mizorowski, and he will be pitching tonight for the Brewers at Seattle. Pregame begins at 8:05 on Civic Media stations in Richland Center, Oshkosh, Racine, Kenosha, Park Falls, and Hayward. Then the Brewers will play again in Seattle tomorrow afternoon. Pregame starting at 2:05. Thursday they're off. They come home for a weekend series against the Florida Marlins, and then the Chicago Cubs come to town next week starting Monday. The Brewers back alone in first place over the Cubs for the first time since mid-April, basically. The Trump administration, the election of Donald Trump has a lot of significance. Again, a lot of things that folks warned were coming. that a group of people hostile to the Affordable Care Act are going to make sure that it's not as affordable. And that's exactly what is happening now, as health insurance companies say that their premiums will be going way up next year for people who buy their insurance on the Affordable Care Act marketplace. An analysis from KFF, formerly known as the Kaiser Family Foundation, showed that the average person who buys Affordable Care Act insurance will be paying 75% more for their premium. And of course, a big reason for that would be the reduction in the subsidies and the enhanced subsidies that came during the pandemic that helped make health insurance more affordable. With Republicans controlling Congress and the Trump administration wanting those subsidies to go away, as one example, if someone is paying $60 a month for their health insurance this year, it's going to be more like $105 a month next year. And as National Public Radio reports, people who are generally healthy might well decide that the higher premium is not worth it. They will go without health insurance. And then they're going to get sick or injured. With that many more people, an estimated 4 million more people without health insurance, it's going to lead to higher bills for them. Or if they can't pay it, it's going to lead to higher premiums for all the rest of us because there will be more uncompensated care. And as more healthy people opt out of the market, the insurance pool will be left with those who cost insurance companies more, people who can't afford to go without health insurance, and so their premiums will go up again. And as much as Republicans have been crowing about this, and now they're of course referring to this as, well, this is just the unsustainable skyrocketing cost of Obamacare, according to Senator Bill Cassidy, Republican of Louisiana. Well, yeah, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you attack the Affordable Care Act and make it less affordable, it makes it easy for you to say, gosh, look how expensive Obamacare is now. Yeah, because of you. To which I again have to remind people, and I'm never going to stop reminding people, the Affordable Care Act, derided by Republicans as Obamacare, is a Republican idea. It was created by a Republican think tank that did not want single payer and or government-run health insurance. And so the idea was to continue using the private marketplace, but just help people afford private insurance. That's all the Affordable Care Act is at its heart, is, again, pooling our resources to help everybody have health insurance because we all save when we're all covered, or we all pay when more Americans aren't covered. It is actually that simple, and that's where the Republican idea came from and where the Obama administration said, okay, we'll try that at least as a start, and we can always work to improve it later. We can add a public option, for example. Have something like Medicare for all or Medicaid for all that covers Americans and have them compete. If the private sector of health insurance thinks it's so good, they shouldn't be afraid of competition. I mean, isn't that what we hear about public schools all the time? Is that they shouldn't be afraid of a little competition? But thanks to the late Senator Joe Lieberman, who withheld his vote, Democrats had to pull out the public option, so there is not one in the Affordable Care Act. And so it's all about these private companies, and if they're not getting premium subsidies from the federal government, of course they're going to jack up their rates. So once again, we are living that whole lesson of those who forget the past are condemned to repeat it. And so we are about to repeat the cycle of higher premiums and people deciding to go without insurance and then ending up with big medical bills and then ending up with more medical debt and more medical bankruptcies and more uncompensated care, which is going to put more hospitals and clinics out of business, and it's going to raise premiums for all the rest of us. That ain't doom and gloom, folks. That's exactly what people tried to tell voters last year. And whatever the result last November, they chose the way they did. And this is what's going to happen going forward, as we're now seeing from these new estimates on what's going to happen with health insurance premiums on the Affordable Care Act marketplace coming up next year. It's a little quiet out there in Wisconsin politics, but it won't be for long. Somebody's going to make an announcement, and things are going to move real fast. We're going to talk to Dan Shafer from the recombobulation area coming up next here up north. Mr. Shafer, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Anything that we missed before we jump into all this?
I don't think so. I don't see any breaking political news on any certain topics.
I was just looking myself. I'm like, oh, please don't get scooped in the middle of your own segment, you know. So no, I think we're good here. All right, and so that's your independent redistricting effort column here. Okay.
More of a feature story this time, but yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, I think we're in good shape here. You go to any Brewers Cubs games when they come to town?
I usually try to avoid those. I'll say the Cubs are not my least favorite of the visiting fans, though. I will always hate the Cardinals fans more.
Ah, good point. I thought
They
you
are
were-
somehow they managed to be more annoying than Cubs fans, which kudos to them.
Way to go, fans.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
20 seconds. Did you know the recombobulation area is a 19-time Milwaukee Press Club award-winning opinion column and online publication founded by longtime Milwaukee journalist Dan Shafer, and that the recombobulation area is now part of Civic Media? If you didn't, well, then you must be new to these Tuesday visits that we do with Dan Shafer from the aforementioned recombobulation area. Get it at the recombobulationarea.news. Dan Shafer, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Kreitlow. Always wonderful to join you here on Mornings with Pat Kreitlow.
What are your impressions of the Brewers hitting 11? At what point do you go stand outside a George Webb hamburger restaurant and say, gimme, gimme, gimme?
Well, we got an exciting day for our Brewers here today. We've got a Mizorowski start and the chance to go 12 in a row here. So I'm gonna absolutely be watching that one and be ready to head right over to my neighborhood George Webb's as soon as the Brewers win this one.
Did you take advantage of either the other two times in our recent lifetimes that they did the hamburger giveaway?
I did in, what was it, 2018?
2018,
Right
okay.
toward the end of the season there in 2018. So, I was able to take advantage of that one. Brought my daughter. We got some cheeseburgers. It was a good time.
It does beg the question, maybe somebody already did it already, how much it costs that local restaurant chain to do it versus how much publicity, how much earned media they got out of it. It strikes me as probably a win-win for them.
I grew up going to George Webb's. That was like a real high school hangout for us, just having somewhere to go. And I always enjoy a reason to go back and enjoy some George Webb's. That's for sure.
Good. Well, we'll be certainly hoping for the best for tonight here again. 8:05 pregame begins, Brewers versus the Mariners. We can say with a high amount of confidence that we have no breaking news. At no point has the governor's office called you or called me this morning with a heads up. So we continue to be on Evers' watch on whether he's running for a third term or not. I have enjoyed watching the rumor mill be wrong in both ways, saying, oh, he's about to announce he's not running. Oh, he's about to announce he is running. No, neither one came.
Well, I have stayed out of that part of the reporting of this. I'm certainly talking to people and trying to learn more about what's going on, but I have not reported anything either way about when the governor is making a decision, what decision he might be making. I have some inklings about where these things are going to go, and obviously you know where I stand on this. Mm-hmm. But I think for whatever it's worth, I think Tony Evers has earned the right to make this decision on his own time. I think there's a lot of griping about, the decision and what he should do. And obviously I have said multiple times online and on the airwaves that I think Evers should not run for a third term. But I also think that he has earned every right to make this decision on his own time. And if he needs some extra time to make it, I think he's earned that. But, it does, there are some consequences of that, right? I think it does mean that just about everything in Wisconsin politics with an eye on 2026 is in a little bit of a holding pattern. We're all just kind of waiting for that decision to be made for then all of the rest of the dominoes to fall.
And based on yesterday's headlines, whatever the governor decides, you can absolutely count that a year from now, Hunter Biden will come up with a new reason as to why that decision was made and ruin everything. So. Good.
What in the world was that interview? Oh my goodness!
What in the world is Hunter Biden? But and it came out on the 1-year anniversary of President Biden deciding not to run, and honestly, nothing has been the same since that day. Well, we can now say officially 366 days later, what a year it's been.
Oh, I know. And that was right on the heels of the RNC in Milwaukee. So I remember being just exhausted from spending long days covering the RNC in Milwaukee for the recombobulation area, finishing that up, having a couple days to decompress, and all of a sudden that news hits on a Sunday afternoon, and all of a sudden we're right back into it. It's one of those moments where you're going to remember where you are when you heard the news. And now I think a year later, obviously Harris didn't win, but going from Biden to Harris, I think saved several Senate seats, including, I think, Tammy Baldwin's for Democrats. I think it prevented a huge Republican majority in the House of Representatives. I think it stemmed the tide of a down ballot disaster. And I think I had been made aware of some polling here in Wisconsin for some, races in the Wisconsin state legislature that were showing that even under new maps, the Republicans were going to be at near supermajority levels if Biden was going to be the guy at the top of the ticket. So I think that, take a look at what happened in the state Senate in the most recent budget process. I don't think any of that happens if Biden stays on the ticket and candidates have to spend so much time going on doors and justifying why Biden is still the candidate and all of that. And I think, Harris and her campaign, there are things that I liked about it. There are things that I didn't like about it. But ultimately, I think she gave it a fighting chance, gave the Democrats a fighting chance to win the White House in the 107 days that she had the opportunity to do so. So I don't really have a lot of good things to say about Joe Biden or his family members who are trying to come out and justify the insanity of trying to run a campaign based on honesty and integrity while asking people to deny the evidence of their eyes and ears.
You mentioned the prospect of new maps, and new maps are something we're going to continue talking about in Wisconsin, even though we're in mid-decade, because, as noted in your most recent newsletter, the independent redistricting effort begins anew in Wisconsin inside the effort to bring a long-term permanent solution for redistricting reform in Wisconsin. Tell us about the column.
Yeah, so I was writing this piece over the last couple of weeks here and got a chance to talk to a number of folks who have long been involved in the Fair Maps movement in Wisconsin and are kind of beginning the latest effort anew. And last year, when Tony Evers signed new maps into law in February of 2024, I think that was a momentous achievement for the state of being out from under a decade of the most egregious partisan gerrymander for any state legislature in the country and moving towards a better, newer, fairer maps that were initiated by this remedial maps process that came through the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Huge achievement, but not a long-term one. It's a short-term fix to the problem of unconstitutional maps. And 2030 is, just a few years away, and we're going to be back at square one without an actual legislative change to reform the way the state operates its redistricting process. And so I talked to people with Wisconsin Democracy Campaign and the Fair Maps Coalition and the League of Women's Voters and a number of volunteers who have been meeting for hours every week to talk about and hone this plan to try to get a quote-unquote Wisconsin model for independent redistricting in the state. And I think the plan that they have come up with is a pretty compelling one. And right now it is what is happening. It is kind of coming from the behind the scenes, crafting the proposal, crafting the process stage to really bringing it to the public. So they've held a number of public events about this proposal over the past few weeks. I believe they had ones in Wausau and Green Bay and Dodgeville and Whitefish Bay just north of Milwaukee. And so I think they're eyeing to have more of these in the coming months and eventually have a proposal that will bring legislation creating an independent redistricting commission for the state of Wisconsin that would oversee the redistricting process every 10 years. And then it would also include a push for a constitutional amendment to change to amend the state constitution to say that it is not the legislators themselves who are drawing the maps, who have oversight over the redistricting process. Kind of the old adage of the voters should pick their leaders, not the other way around.
So, in a reminder that, again, I am just a humble former legislator who was ahead of my time. I recall in 2010 that another freshman state senator and I approached leadership and said, look, 2010 is going to be a tough year. And we want to run on a reform platform that includes an independent redistricting commission. We think we'd get a lot of mileage with voters out of saying, let's take the map drawing out of the politicians' hands. And we were met with an expletive and said, no, we're going to win and we're going to draw the maps. And I think we know how well that worked out. And so here we are 15 years later, still talking about the need for an independent redistricting commission in Wisconsin that, again, I'm glad they're starting as early as they are because we don't know the results of the 2026 election, but they need to be ready come January of 2027, try to put together, enough of a bipartisan coalition where the party leaders from one or both parties don't go, well, blank that, we're going to win and we're going to draw the maps.
Yeah, and the goal for this is to have bipartisan support, and it is very purposefully not being crafted in partnership with any lawmakers from either major political party in Wisconsin. I think some of the people that I talked to for this are a little bit more skeptical of Democrats' motivations in the Fair Maps movement after some wanted to wait and have the courts draw the maps during the remedial maps process last year, instead of having the governor sign the maps that he himself proposed. So I think some were waiting for a slightly more advantageous map for Democrats. And I think some people, some of these pro-democracy advocates and fair maps activists were saying, wait a minute there. That's not really what we're here about. That's not what our priorities and principles are. And so I think there are some people in that space who are wanting to say, we don't want either party to have the opportunity to gerrymander maps ever in Wisconsin. Again, we saw how it decimated the state's politics in so many ways. And so regardless of which party would be in power in 2030, the effort here is to get that power out of the power to draw the maps out of the politicians' hands.
We're talking to Dan Shafer from the Recombobulation Area. You can sign up for his newsletter, the recombobulationarea.news. And, of course, he's the political editor here at Civic Media as well. We talked about it being, it's quiet here while we wait for the governor to make his announcement. Do you feel, maybe you have the list right next to you, that if the governor announces he's not running and the list of potential candidates, can you imagine how many phone calls are going to be made within like the first 5 minutes of that announcement? And I really am concerned that some of these folks, their phones might actually catch fire because so many calls are going to be coming into them going, do you have something to say? And we should know better. There's nobody that's going to announce within 5 minutes of the governor's announcement that they're running, even though we all want to be the first one to get somebody saying that they're running. So I guess we're just tempering expectations, I guess, is what I'm doing here.
Yeah, it's going to be, there are a lot of careers riding on what the decision the governor makes, right? I think we've gone through the list, I think, on this show or others a couple different times about who the group of candidates might be to run for governor, but it's certainly going to be a busy time as soon as Evers makes that decision. And that's not to say like what the other implications of that might be, what, races for attorney general or secretary of state, depending on who might be running. And I think there are, the domino effect of this is going to be pretty profound, regardless of what way this goes for the governor, especially if he decides not to seek a third term. There are going to be a lot of changes in Democratic politics in Wisconsin. And once again, I will reiterate, I think that's a good thing.
And I will let folks know that unlike back in 2018, we do not go into this with a prohibitive favorite. Again, then Tony Evers, not the governor, the state superintendent, took his time making a decision to run. And in that time, 10 to 12 other Democrats got into the race, knowing full well that if Evers decided, well, maybe I'm going to run after all, he instantly became the prohibitive favorite and emerged from that primary. But nobody knew until they did. All these other candidates got in. So once again, all these years later, we've got a waiting game coming up for Tony Evers. A local update is next for some of you. Others will come back here for some final news and notes from Lake Wissota, talking with Dan Shafer. And remember, you can follow us all the time at upnorthnewswi.com and right here mornings on the Civic Media Radio Network. Okay, we'll do the little primary discussion coming up next. I feel like you should Steve Kornacki this thing. We should put a big whiteboard behind you with all the names. And this one's going to run for attorney general, and this one's going to run here, and this one's going to run there. It's going to get crazy.
It is. And well, I can't put a whiteboard behind me because the only person who can read my handwriting is me. So that is going to help no one.
Okay. So plus the kids will be like, no, we get to use it. And there'll be a little drawing of a dog or a barn.
Yeah, we'll have pictures of mermaids on there instead of.
Are we going through a mermaid phase right now?
It's more than a phase. It's a lifestyle.
It's not a phase.
Yeah, right. So I've got these two adult daughters, and the one had two boys, and the other had a boy and now a girl, and Charlotte's 3 years old. And they're watching all the newer Disney movies, which frankly aren't, they're not the Disney movies of old. And we thought, well, let's set them up with some old school Disney movies here. And so one day we put in the original Little Mermaid because our daughters wore that thing out. That VHS tape was nothing by the time it was dust. And so we thought, well, let's let her watch it. And she loved it. And she was playing mermaid, for weeks afterwards, and would sometimes turn to my daughter and go, Mama, I want to watch a scary movie because of Ursula the Sea Witch, who's in there. And it's just that reminder that the Disney movies we don't see the dead mom quite as often, or or in Ursula's case, getting impaled by a ship.
Right.
Anyway,
yeah. Well, it's funny. My youngest daughter started watching those. She's 4 now, and she likes all of the villains in all of the movies. She likes all of the bad guys. So she likes Ursula's her favorite in Little Mermaid. She loves the evil queen in Snow White. Like, she always likes the villains. Even when we showed her like some Star Wars stuff, she was more interested in Darth Vader than the rest of the characters.
Oh my!
Yeah.
What have we tapped into here? Exactly. Thank you, Parker. Yes. Oh man, that's funny. Okay, let's see. Get into. And yeah, I'd better go look again just to make sure. Got about 20 seconds here.
Okay.
Coming up at 9 o'clock, of course, Matt Nair on air with Jane Matt-Nair and Greg Bach here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Todd Alba will be joining them at 9:30. Dan Shafer joins us right now. And I'm looking at some of the headlines of the past few days. And, of course, there was a lot said about the Coldplay concert at Camp Randall Stadium the other night, which had much less drama than the Coldplay concert, a couple of nights earlier there in Massachusetts.
I wasn't at the show. Were there any CEOs at the show in Madison who maybe got themselves in trouble? No John Menard sightings or anything like that?
None that were doing anything untoward, I'm happy to say. No. But I did ask, I was asking folks yesterday, and I thought maybe I'd ask you from a Milwaukee standpoint, favorite concerts of, people who'd been to Camp Randall for concerts. I mean, Kristen Lyerly had seen the Rolling Stones there many, many years ago. There have been concerts, at American Family Field, Miller Park before that. Anything stick out to you in terms of, those kinds of stadium concert venues, outside of, say, the Summerfest grounds?
Outside of the Summerfest grounds. Well, I was thinking, I saw Paul McCartney at what was the Marcus Amphitheater. That's obviously a memorable one for me. I was at a concert last year at American Family Field. I saw, I'm a big 90s alternative rock guy, and so I saw Green Day and the Smashing Pumpkins at American Family Field last summer. That was a really fun one.
How was it? Did you because again, with stadiums, they're not necessarily built for that kind of sound, but maybe things are better now than they used to be. Did you enjoy it?
It was good. It was a little weird because we had, when you're buying your seats, you're thinking about just like the way you buy seats for a baseball game. And all of a sudden it's just like, oh, the stage is out in the outfield. I thought they maybe would be, plop it right on top of second base or something like that. That wasn't the case. So we were a little bit further away from the stage than we had anticipated, but we still had a good time.
Okay, let's bring up the conversation that Dr. Lyerly and I were having yesterday about primary elections, because again, whatever the governor decides, there are races that already are shaping up to have primaries. On the Democratic side, of course, there's the 3rd Congressional District. It looks like the 17th State Senate District in southwest Wisconsin, perhaps the 5th Senate District over there in the Milwaukee suburbs. And that there are these campaign committees, the ADCC for Assembly Democrats, the SSDC for State Senate Democrats, the Republicans have theirs, and so forth and so on. And then there's this whole discussion of whether the party is like anointing a favorite candidate to try to, put their thumb on the scales for a primary. The thrust of our discussion yesterday, which I think probably cheesed off everybody to one degree or another, is that primaries aren't inherently good or bad, but they sure can be handled poorly.
That's for sure. They can be handled poorly. But I think, I think obviously there's like two sides to this, right? I think the people, especially fundraisers, largely want to avoid having a primary that gives them a longer runway to ramp up for the general election. And I think on the other side, I think there is Democrats have avoided primaries to their detriment, I think, in certain cases, because I do think there is this iron sharpens iron type of quality of honing your message, being challenged, and that improving your candidacy and your campaign in the process of a primary. Now, I will say that I think Wisconsin's primary timing makes things rather challenging. And I think if we moved the primary from that August date to the April spring election like we have for presidential primaries, I think that would solve a lot of these problems. Because I think that if you have a candidate for the general election in April, then you give, a full 6 months or more to get that general election campaign. If it's just after August, it's pretty much a sprint from August through November. And I think we saw that in the 2022 Senate election, where Mandela Barnes, all the candidates dropped out like right before the actual primary. And then I feel like the Barnes campaign seemed a little bit flat-footed when it came to responding to some of the attacks that seemed inevitable from the Johnson campaign and some of that stuff in late August and early September. And they just were kind of put themselves in a hole that they weren't quite able to get all the way back out of. So I think the timing of Wisconsin's primary does make it challenging. But I am generally more open or pro-primary, I guess, in these conversations. But I think you're right that, these organizations have a job to do. And I don't, I don't think it's necessarily bad on their part to back a certain candidate either.
No, and again, it doesn't mean anointed, but it certainly does mean access to resources. But they give them that access to resources because they see something in them that they think has potential. For my money, and again, I don't know that there's any one right answer, but I have a daughter living in Texas, and they just space everything 6 months apart. So you have a May primary and a November general. You have your partisan races in the even-numbered years, your nonpartisan races in the odd-numbered years. So literally every 6 months there is an election in Texas, but at least it's consistent. It's not this, when's the primary again, and what are we voting on again? I mean, you just know every May and November you're going to be asked to choose for these races. Now, I've seen the responses to our question of the week, and there's a whole lot of people that want much shorter campaigns. I think we all want that, but it's not necessarily the healthiest thing to have if a campaign is too short, right?
Right. And I think, you need time to get your message out there. You need time to talk to voters and connect with people and all of that. I certainly, would like campaigns to be shorter as well, and I think there are some systemic reforms that can be undertaken to address that. But we also have to recognize reality. This is the reality of campaigning in America in the 2020s. Until we have some sort of systemic reform, which seemed out of reach in the early years of the Biden administration when they tried to address some of these voting rights issues. I think this is the system we've got right now. So these are the boundaries in which we've got to play on the field here.
These are indeed. Sign up for Dan Shafer's newsletter at therecombobulationarea.news. Dan, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, Mr. Kreitlow. Be well.
All right, and thanks to all of you for being part of our mornings here as well, powered by Up North News. Follow what we do at upnorthnewswi.com and on social media, and right here mornings on the Civic Media Radio Network. See you back here 6 a.m. tomorrow here up north. All right, and now an extra special feature for our social media audience, Dan, just so you know that they're still here. They now get to watch us do tomorrow's promo, live on air here, or not live, but so I thought I'd say my goodbyes now so that we can do the promo and then get on with our day. But if you need anything, give me a holler.
All right, we should be all good. Thanks, Pat.
All right, thanks, Dan. See you later.
See ya.
All right, so now we got a promo to do for tomorrow here.
That we do.
Okay, let's see.
Let me pull up the content calendar so I can cross-check this with whatever you say. Because I don't always know. As hard as I try, I don't always know.
Yep.
Guys, tomorrow, Pat is going to be live in the flesh.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Okay. We'll discuss. All right. Let's see if that times out, shall we? Let's see. Stopwatch. On Wednesday, I'll be in Madison, and we'll discuss how declining enrollment in Wisconsin school districts is exacerbated by state aid that doesn't keep up with inflation. It's a little long, but we'll give it another go. Are you rolling there, sir?
No, I am, yeah.
Okay. On Wednesday, I'll be in Madison, and we'll talk about how declining enrollment in Wisconsin schools is exacerbated by state aid that doesn't keep up with inflation. Wow, that was downright professional, kids.
That was about as good as it gets.
There you go. See,
Yeah,
I will collect my awards now, please. Anybody? No? Okay. All right.
WBA, are you listening?
Are you listening? All right, live streamers. We'll see you tomorrow from beautiful Madison.